accept the agenda.
Motion.
By Commissioner Rahman, seconded by Commissioner Loza, and all in favor of accepting the agenda? That carries, great, and any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, moving on, and then motion to approve the minutes for May 9th meeting, Commissioner Rahman, seconded by Commissioner Loza, and all in favor? And that carries. Okay, we have no presentations or delegations, so we can right on to communications. The first being the second report for the Accessible Public Transit Service Advisory Committee. So I'll get a motion to receive that, and then any discussions or questions moved by Commissioner Rahman, seconded by Commissioner Trossdale. And any comments or questions on those minutes? Okay, Commissioner Trossdale.
I have a couple of questions about the conduct of the meeting. I've really made it a point to informally talk to as many people on the committee as possible in the time that I've had. Is the representative of Voyago a member of this ad hoc member of this committee who sits at the table with speaking rights?
Through the chair, yes, they are included in the terms of reference. So not a voting member, they're just there as a resource like our administration is.
Well, okay. And if we wanted to change that, we'd have to change the terms of reference.
Yes.
Okay. You'll notice in the minutes that there's a little bit of content in there besides just receiving reports. And I'm really trying to encourage members of the committee to actually, members of the committee are really good at coming up with ideas and saying things. What they're not really precise on is how to get what they said reflected in the minutes. So I was trying to assist them with that. And so there are a few things in there, but I think we have to remember this is an advisory committee that's for the benefit of this commission. So it does not do this commission any good to just sort of get bare reports that say we noted and filed this report. We have to have more substance reflected in these minutes, and I will continue to push for that. And I hope that I don't have to always be reiterating what somebody said and put it in the form of a motion, but for now I'm going to do that.
Great, yeah, and I'll say, I found these minutes quite helpful, because they gave us a good snapshot in comparison to some of the advisory committees we have at the city, so, I mean, keeping this format seems good, but it's enough that we can understand, and then you can always provide supplementary comments to commissioners if they have follow-up questions.
Well, my supplementary comments are that there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the paratransit system and how it's being implemented and rolled out. And I just want to make sure that those voices are heard.
Great, thank you, and thank you for serving on that. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Loza?
Thank you. In regards to the advisory committee, looking to see if they've all had onboarding training of procedures, how to do those basic motions. I know sometimes city we'll do it at the beginning of the term, but then people slide in throughout the term and it just kind of gets missed. So just seeing if that process is in place here, if there's anything that you see they could do to refine it, or just have like the one-page handout or digital, like Cole's note version of, if you want to do this, this is what you say, insert words here, kind of.
Yeah. Through the chair, we do have that process, but given the fact later on in this meeting, we'll be appointing new members. What we're going to do is a bit of a refresher at the August meeting for everyone, but that will obviously be new training for the new members as well.
And so then we do, that whenever we have new members joining? Yes. Any follow-ups? Great. Any other comments or questions from these minutes? No, seeing none, then I'll call the question. Motion to receive, seconded, all in favor, any opposed? Okay, that carries. And then letter from Commission Government Subcommittee. So there's some motions and some recommendations in there. So maybe to get on the floor, I'll look for a motion to support the committee recommendation. Moved by Commissioner Roman, second by Commissioner Lehman. Any comments or questions or discussion on that item? I can also turn it over to Commissioner Roman as the chair of the committee, subcommittee to explain or give a highlight.
Sure, I'm really happy to do that. I keep looking for a microphone to have something, you know, built in. So, to start, I just want to say first, thank you to, the group that met, Commissioner Hopkins, Commissioner Chair Frank, with respect to this topic. I think we had a really healthy and good discussion on where to go and some of the things that we were hearing and looking to address with the motion in place. But this is really just a way for us to have a starting point conversation as well about next steps and direction. So, to facilitate, just to move faster, I'll just go through the next steps in the discussion components. So the first is the city bylaw, and of course you'll note that it says that we have LTC as 4 councillors and 3 citizen appointees. Similar to other boards and commissions, the commission would like the bylaw updated to reflect that interviews of citizen appointees happen here, and that those recommendations, that recommended slate be forwarded to SPPC, and that the criteria be specific and ask for legal, HR, finance, accounting, engineering, transportation planning, or IT, and that preferences will be given to those that are conventional or specialized riders with the requisite expertise as well. So those are important for the discussion, sets a different tone in terms of membership, I think, as well, but also highlights and supports the need for riders for both conventional and specialized transit. Within the terms of reference that staff draw up, terms of reference for conventional ridership advisory committee, and then continue to work further towards the repopulating as we are doing today for the accessible public transit service advisory committee. And that this communication, the outcome of today's meeting, that we send a letter to SPPC outlining the above requests for a bylaw update, including how we'll utilize the new selection process, interviews, and recommendations. And enclosed is also a timeline to get us to a September 30th date, which was the date that we had discussed at SPPC, to have a kind of a transition point as well. At that transition point, that the entire complement of LTC be reappointed, so that councillors that are currently serving would have the opportunity to put their names forward to repopulate within that 4-member membership, so we could fight it out there. So that's kind of the summary, and happy to take any questions and looking forward to the discussion.
No, thank you. Any, okay, Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and to you and to Commissioner Rahman. Many thanks for the healthy conversation that we had and the extra legwork Commissioner Rahman took getting all this information to us as soon as possible, and to staff as well for getting our notes in order and just well organized. I really do appreciate as we deal with the dates moving forward. I did notice that we are going to have an extra meeting, LTC meeting to appoint. And then is there going to be a subcommittee as well? I just want to understand that process.
Roman, do you wanna?
Sure. I think that's part of the discussion for today, is how we want to go about doing those interviews, if it's the full complement or if it's a subcommittee. I think that will have a little bit to do with everybody's, vacation schedules, other commitments, etc., just to make sure that we can hit that timeline. With respect to the recommendation, to what the slate will be moving forward, that meeting to do that recommendation could be a special meeting, but could happen subsequently from the last discussion of the interview. So there is a way to stage it so that we can, 1, meet the timeline, but 2, be respectful of everybody's time on calling them.
Commissioner Hopkins, any follow-up?
No, appreciate it. I think the discussion will probably continue as we go forward. So thank you.
Commissioner Blodgett?
Thank you. I have a short series of questions. Feel free to defer them if there's another appropriate place. Looking for just the thought process on upping it to 4 councillors from the previous limit.
Sure. You mean from current 7 or from
prior, not the seven, but
Yeah, the
The pro-
2 and the 5.
yeah.
Okay, yes, so I mean, as a group discussion, I don't know if Commissioner Robin wants to answer that, but.
Sure, I'm happy to share kind of the feedback from the group. So the discussion basically, I guess would follow on the train of thought that we were trying to address the desire for more leadership from council members, but at the same time respecting that there were members that initially said that they would only serve in a short-term capacity, so making sure that we could do both. And so that gave us, still the opportunity to have the majority being counselors. But we also discussed other potential makeups and complements, but we just thought we'd take this forward as a discussion point from here.
Thank you for that. My other question is, I guess, procedurally, this council has our own stuff going on, there's budget stuff going on, and then we're moving forward with, repopulation as we've had discussed at SPPC. A portion of that is the compensation that we give to commissioners, the public ones, not the councilor ones. Knowing that governance working group is reviewing some stuff, there's been some stuff coming through budget of reviewing that pot of money, which would include, different stipends. So looking to see when the appropriate conversation would be. I don't believe we're legislatively mandated to do any compensation. If we're gonna advertise it, is it best to advertise it with no compensation as we wait for council and governance working group to review all their stuff behind the scenes versus saying we're gonna do something and then might have to repeal it if we've already advertised it, there's monetary. So I'm just looking for direction on when's the best time before we advertise.
So I might turn to you, I don't know if you know if our legislator required to.
That's a council,
Yeah,
that all flows through council.
Okay, is that, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, I have personal thoughts, but I don't know if I can speak them happily, Commissioner Rowe.
We didn't discuss it, but I'm happy to share personal thoughts, but if you want to go ahead first.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go quick and then I'm gonna pass it, but, I don't think that I've ever seen any, ABC positions, advertised with the honorarium. I think most people actually are completely unaware that there is an honorarium or stipend generally to apply, at least the people that I speak with. And I don't know if, people like to serve, like, need the financial motivation too, but, and to your point, I'm not sure if we'll know exactly what the stipend will be and for how long. So I probably would just do the process we've done in the past, which is simply posting it. If they ask questions, they can find out more information there. The stipend's the same as it was previously, but I don't know if you have any follow-up, sure.
The only thing I would say is that, right now, we don't have direction to really review this stipend at this point for this particular term. I feel like it's in place for a discussion for the next term. So I'm just wondering if we just, go with status quo until, SPPC or council comes back with some other recommendation, because I wouldn't want to allude to the fact that something's going to take place that hasn't been agreed upon at the council level as of yet. I know governance working committee meets this coming week and there's discussion around the timeline for the appointment. So that I think we'll proceed at this point with what we know. But there are opportunities for us to see how that conversation unfolds as that continues and then update that term before that September 30th date anyway. So we could, put in there subject to council decision or something of that sort to address it.
Commissioner Wilson?
Okay, yeah, just 'cause I know that we say like September 30th in here and there is summer. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion that, that we ask the governance working group to prioritize that discussion of LTC compensation, noting that they're gonna be discussing it anyways, but that they're aware that we're looking to repopulate the board and just have a clear, concise, message out to the public.
Okay, so we moved in second this recommendation, so would you like to kind of add that as?
I'd like to do an amendment or
Yeah, so add an amendment that, we.
request, so we can't direct.
Yeah, the governance working group to review, ABC stipends, specifically transit, in the next couple months. And is there a seconder for that amendment?
Okay, I can bring it through council instead. So I'm gonna highlight, there's been some media attention of the stipends that people have gotten. So if people weren't aware of the stipend, that's that's there. Also haven't done an environmental scan of what other transit commissions, do for, their members. I can also bring it through separately for their LTC meeting. Besides the honorarium, what other benefit would a commissioner normally get? I would say I'm interested in allowing commissioners who serve, equally, transit, city councilors and public to have, a bus pass, like either the ticket, like your card, or just a strip of tickets to encourage, people transit ridership, or if they're going somewhere, to help highlight their.
Sure, great, Steph.
Through the chair, that was something that we provided in the past and back, I want to say 10 years ago, tax laws changed that if we provide that, that is a taxable benefit. So the commission at the time voted then that they did want it. So since then, we've not provided bus passes to members of the commission because that's just what's been in place since that vote.
I guess would be the question for the next commission coming in, to maybe have it on their docket that they would like the conversation if they would like access to a pass as well, the conversation.
Yeah, great point. Commissioner Shaw, oh wait, sorry, are you, leave your questions?
Yeah, I don't know if I need a motion for that or just, I could bring something through. I'll bring something through the next one. Yeah, I'll bring a nice letter.
Yeah, so we can put it on a.
Yeah.
Work plan something. Great, Commissioner Chaucer?
I think the appropriate way of dealing with the taxable benefit issue is to give each member the option of declining or accepting the benefit.
So perhaps there could be,
Maybe
working together on that one, because that sounds like a great future discussion topic. All right, any other questions or comments regarding these suggestions? Again, this was kind of meant as a discussion point, so if people want to change anything or have discussion about this path forward, if they like it or don't like it, this is the opportunity before we send it off to SPC, which again, as counselors, will be able to debate this again. So, any further comments on these recommendations? Okay, seeing none, we've had that moved and seconded, so I'll just call a vote, all in favor? And any opposed? That carries. Thank you very much, and thank you for helping us move that along with the tight timelines. And now we're gonna be moving to consent items, so we restructured the agenda, so these items 1 to 7 are all for consent, although I will highlight there are approvals essentially at items 6 and 7, but we've discussed in the same way that we approve contracts and consent items at council, we can do similarly to receive and approve all these items. So is there anything people want to pull to vote separately on? Otherwise, I'll do a motion for all of them to approve and see all of them. You'll approve, Greg. So Commissioner Rahman, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins to see and approve all. Any comments or questions on item 7? Commissioner Lehman?
Through the chair, I've recently heard that the only e-bus manufacturer in Canada has gone bankrupt. Have you heard anything? I think it's called Lion. What's the name of the Canadian?
Well, there's two, through the chair. There's New Flyer and there's Nova Bus.
Okay. So you haven't
Proterra went bankrupt about a year ago. They had, like, Edmonton Transit, for example, had bought
Right.
a large number from Proterra and they went bankrupt, but not heard anything about Nova or New Flyer.
Okay. So again, through your chair, it just happened in the last month or so. So that's why.
And that's not accurate. Then.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
The chair, so if it was Nova Bus, I heard about their management's all changed structure. Had a different outlook for on Canada, that's what Mike called me the other day. So I thought he called because the RFP was out for the electric bus, and he's just calling to say that they're gonna be in the game for this, so that's what they said.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank you.
Any follow-up? Good keeping your eyes out on the field. Very small field. Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Councilor Teresa? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. Just with respect to the special events and construction update, I just wanted to thank staff for their work on getting information out to riders on the extension period that we're now implementing for July and August. I think that there's real value when we listen to riders that are telling us that it's difficult for them to getting between two places with the current timeline. And so this is a way for us to address it. I hope that it's successful. I appreciate all the communication. I know that is painful. And I appreciate this update to give us some ideas as to where things are headed and the ways that we're addressing those multiple items.
Yes, that reminds me, I did do an interview on the weekend. So there should be an article on the Free Press regarding that this week. Just pretty much like she called it a break news story. So short and sweet. And I also want to highlight thanking the previous commission for setting that in motion for staff to bring forward. So yeah, hopefully it's great. Actually, follow-up question with that, if people allow. Are we able to track if like generally the success of that, or that was difficult to be hard to pinpoint that, you know, as they do our window now there's ridership?
Through the chair, we'll be able to do some comparison to like the same period last year to see if there's been an adjustment. It would be very anecdotal. It won't be scientific, but we will be able to get some indication of the uptake.
And could we survey, perhaps like again, as part of a question in the voice of the
The
rider?
customer, yeah, that would be an added question that we could include to see if people utilized it and what their thoughts were, for sure.
Great. Any other questions or comments for the consent items? And Commissioner Morgan has joined us. Thank you. We're just going through the consent items. So if you have any comments or questions on items 1 through 7, they've been all moved and seconded. So if no one else has any comments, then I will do a motion to receive and approve the consent agenda. And call the question. All in favor? And any opposed? That carried. Okay, moving on to items for direction. And thanks staff for all those reports. They were great. Okay, so 2026 budget. So we did have a report from staff. Thank you very much, providing some potential direction for us. So I believe there might be a motion, perhaps if you want to kick her off with that with Scott. Or Commissioner Ross?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first I want to say thank you to staff for this report. It was laid out in a way that I found really helpful with that high level overview of where we are with the viewpoint of, you know, where we see some potential expenses in the future, and really that detail around that this is kind of one time only, 2026 only kind of a conversation. So I think that was helpful. And to set the stage for the conversation that we're having, I did draft a motion for discussion. And that is that we direct administration to prepare a 2026 operating budget for public transit services, which provides for a $700,000 reduction in the City of London funding from the previous approved 2026 budget in 2024-2027 for the multi-year budget. The reason for the reduction of $700,000 is that it would, as we saw, the final numbers in that chart show us that we have about a $1.2 million surplus. The $700,000 would allow us still to retain a portion for LTC in the range of about $500,000, which represents the number on specialized transit as well. So it would mean that we're not in a way cutting any service, but we're looking at cost saving measures coming from fuel charges as well as those insurance charges that, or I should say charges, but the insurance money that's coming back. So that would be a $700,000 reduction. And part 2 of the motion, direct administration to finalize the 2026 operating capital budget for presentation and consideration at the August 27, 2025 meeting. And lastly, direct administration to prepare a business case for providing for the $700,000 reduction in City of London funding for submission to Council's Budget Committee. That's the motion I'm looking to move forward with.
Yes.
Sorry, is that motion in here somewhere? I just keep scrolling, looking for it.
This is
Sorry, I did.
Carol,
Yeah.
I'll see if anyone wants a second after they review it. It's essentially part 2 of the motion, but with a change for part I and part 3. Sorry, I just. Yeah, folks want to review that and see if anyone would like to say. Would you like a second or question?
Oh, no.
So. Are you gonna, okay, Commissioner Lehman would like a second, okay, so that is on the floor, comments and questions, Commissioner Chelsea?
Well, just an initial question. One of the reasons why, one of the several reasons why I would vote against this is because I don't think it's at all clear where this is coming from. It's just $700,000 reduction funding from the previously approved. It doesn't really provide reader with any information about where that's coming from or why it's coming from. And I think Commissioner Rahman did a much better job explaining this to us, which had some of that information than is reflected in this motion. So I really think this needs to be worked on.
Commissioner Roberts?
Thank you. I'm happy to take an amendment on it, but basically the total net budget impact, less the amount from contracted service. So that's the explanation. I'm happy to take an amendment to structure that better if that language is needed.
Perhaps something at the end, like with a comma and just saying these savings being found in fuel savings and insurance savings, like would that make you more comfortable listing where the savings are being?
Well, I'm still gonna vote against it, so I'm not gonna be really helpful in terms of trying to amend this.
Wonderful. I appreciate your honesty. Commissioner Pelosi?
Yeah, I would like an amendment of just where the savings were found, for when the public and council looks at, they don't think you instantly cut services and staffing, that it was the savings, for fuel costs and insurance or whatnot.
Any comments from staff?
Just through the chair, those specifics would be included in the business case. So that, I mean, I think that's where it would essentially become public, but happy, I mean, it works to add it there as well, but we would include the specifics in the business case as to where those savings were found.
And perhaps just because we have you, would this negatively impact services at all, this proposed budget case, because you're anticipating about 700,000 in savings, so it's kind of within the wheelhouse.
Yeah, nothing that we include in this report would negatively impact service levels.
Great. Okay, so it sounded like folks would like to have an amendment, so just for some language, would folks like at the end of item I, just there, instead of the semicolon, there to be a comment saying noting savings are being found from fuel costs, insurance, and what was the last one? The third, contracted?
Well, that's the category that you're not.
Yeah. So it's graphics, fuel and insurance costs? Yeah, okay, so then we'll say, so noting that savings are being found from fuel and insurance.
Yeah, was it the gas tax, like, or they don't think it's like that, they have more efficient buses.
Yes. Did you want to add any of that or just say fuel and insurance costs?
The fuel costs, it specifically was from the reduced carbon, or just
Diesel price, 100% diesel price.
just diesel price. Okay, yeah, so just, we could just look at fuel and the insurance savings.
Great, okay, so that's the amendment on the floor, would someone like to move and second that? The amendment?
I moved it down a second, so.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Pelosi, seconded by Commissioner Morgan, and then any discussion on that amendment? Yes, Commissioner Trossel?
Do we have any, through the chair, do we have any protections against our insurance rates going up? Are they locked in or can they be changed? Is it, what's in our contract?
Through the chair, we go out for insurance renewal every year. So this was pure premium savings on our automotive, which is essentially indicative of the market. We had seen significant increases over the last number of years with the premiums associated with automotive fleet. And this year they've come down, but it's not just a London Transit thing. It's industry wide. Those rates are coming down. No, there's no guarantee that wouldn't reverse itself next year. And that's why the report sets out that these savings should be considered 2026 only, because we're not confident that all of those will necessarily flow through to future years. So that just gives us the room to basically go through this exercise again, like we always do, but in 2027 to identify whether those savings are still there.
If through the chair, if we have an unusual increase in insurance costs, is there a particular reserve account that we'd be able to draw on to meet that?
Through the chair, we do have a public liability reserve fund, but that essentially covers the claims costs. We pay 100,000, we pay the first 100,000 on claims, the deductible fee, so that reserve fund covers those costs. We also have a general operating reserve, which the commission could rely on in any given year to offset an unexpected fluctuation in the budget that rather than go back to council, we do have that reserve that would allow us to do that.
Well, I'm going to suggest that any savings that we have for this year probably should go into that reserve account. But let me turn my attention to the fuel costs, which, as we know, are very volatile. Do we have any instruments that we have purchased or invested in that provide stability for us, or are we at the whim of the market?
Through the chair, we're essentially at the whim of the market.
And that could change anytime.
Just one more thing again, along the line of questioning with respect to reserves, we do also have an energy management reserve, that's a mouthful. That again provides the opportunity to make those in-year adjustments without needing to go back to the city. And I believe the balance in that reserve right now is just over $4 million. So again, we were comfortable with the numbers that we included here, knowing that we've got that reserve. And if something significant did happen in 2026, we could still make it through 2026 without needing to go back to the city. But again, that's why we're not carrying that forward through to 2027, because we're not confident estimating that far out.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Plaza?
Are our reserve funds at an adequate balance?
Through the chair, yes, at the last year end, like March 31st year end, all of the reserves were within our administrative guidelines. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions on the amendment? Stuff. Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple of questions. I'm always hesitant when I make decisions on money and not really understanding where the budget is and where the numbers are. It's just the way my brain thinks. And as much as I appreciate the motion coming forward, and if we can save 700,000, that's great. My challenge is, and I know we're just preparing a business case, so the decision most likely for the business case would be had at the budget on August 27th. So I'm kind of cautious by supporting this amendment. I'm not supporting that we do that reduction. But I'd rather have the information, if there's savings to be found, we can have that conversation. But I'm a little hesitant, just given there's a lot of uncertainty. And as much as I'd like to support something like this, I think that conversation still can be had through the budget process. So I won't be supporting.
Okay. And so just a reminder, we're on the amendment, which is just adding a line that's saying this is coming from fuel and insurance savings.
Oh, is this just on?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm okay with that.
Okay, great. But your
That's
comments
been
be
happening.
noted for the general motion at hand. Any others on just the adding the line of fuel and insurance savings? Just on that line? or-
Yeah, I was, okay, on that line, and then I'll come back to
Great,
that.
wonderful. So maybe if there's no other comments or questions on the fuel insurance savings line, I'll call the vote on that amendment. All in favor of adding that sentence at the end? Okay, any opposed? And noting one, so that carries, so that amendment has been added. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me again, and to continue my thought, if it is not supported, can this be just referred to the budget process?
The council budget process or the LTC budget process in August. So my belief is this will come to the August LTC budget discussion, but I don't know if staff, that's also where, like, would a referral for this also be the same as just bringing this report to residents?
Through the chair, I mean, essentially the first one, which is the preparation of the budget, it would be item 3I, whether or not that business case, whether or not the commission is looking for that to be forwarded immediately or wait until subsequent to approving the August budget.
Is that? Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Tressa?
I'm trying to understand what the difference would be between through the chair and to follow up. Passing this motion now or simply deferring it to the August meeting.
Staff, would you take direction?
Yes, I would. The staff report as written, the first item under the recommendation was for the commission to provide direction with respect to how you want us to prepare the budget. So the amendment essentially that's on the floor is just giving us a number to work towards based on this report. Without that direction hasn't necessarily been provided. So that's really what we were looking for out of this report, was some sort of direction as to what the commission is looking for to be included in that budget report that will come in August.
Any follow-up on that, Commissioner Tressa? Commissioner Morgan?
Yeah, so I'll support the motion. I think it's a good motion. It directs administration to prepare the operating budget with savings included. It directs administration to finalize those budgets and bring them before the commission for consideration on August 27th. Directs administration to prepare a business case so that we would have all of the details, including some of the ones discussed today on what constitutes $700,000. I think that's a responsible way to make decisions. So I very much support Councillor Rahman's motion, and I look forward to discussion on August 27th.
One more question. Through the chair, I don't know who on staff would be in charge of monitoring potential volatility of oil prices. But given the rather extreme situation, including the potential closure of the Gulf of Hormuz, does anybody have any estimates as to how this could affect the price of fuel? This being the international. I'm not going to get into a judgmental discussion about this. I'll just say the international situation.
Staff wants to take that.
Through the chair, I mean, certainly Mike keeps an eye on that. It's part of our budgeting process. We get daily rack rate prices, so we can certainly see trends as they start to occur. I think we've mentioned it in the report that is a huge variable. What I can say is if things start to shift between now and August, when we table the August budget, we may be coming back with a different story. So this is based on what we know now, with the caveats that we do have that reserve, and we believe that the numbers that we've included in there are reasonable. But should something, entirely different occur, then we may bring something back different in August.
Any final comments, questions, discussion? Commissioner Gordon?
Thank you. Just within the report on my page 33 of the whole thing. It's regarding the fare increases of 5% for the annual tuition pass program. Just looking, so I know we have increased it 5% across the board, but are all the institutions you buy into that at the same rate? Like, is Fanshawe at the same rate as Western, at the same rate as Huron, whoever might be in it?
Through the chair, yes, we have contracts with Fanshawe. Then we have the undergrads at Western as well as the students, and all three of them pay the same rate, same dollars. Thank you.
If folks will allow me, I just have one question. If hypothetically we didn't move forward with a budget case for consideration for reduction, at the end of next year, if there were savings, what happens to those savings?
Through the chair, typically, it depends on the status of the commission's reserves. Typically, we look to, if there are reserves that are under administrative guidelines, we look to contribute to those reserves to get them back in good shape. That's historically been the case. We've never had such significant amounts of excess that we didn't know what to do with the money. So it's typically, we just look at realigning reserves to make sure they're within administrative guidelines.
And in what case would we return money to the city? Because I know it's happened in the past.
It's year-end. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say generally no, but in 2025, during the budget
That's
process,
budget, though.
we had a reduction, but in terms of that mechanism, no, we haven't. The only other piece is the growth, and we've had that discussion where, 1/3 of the growth would be taken in that year, then the city would hold that back and not flow it to us, so, but a mechanism to change through discussion.
Just to add to that, we do have discussions with civic administration when we're in that situation as to what the best path forward is, and as, in the majority of cases, they're indicating that having our reserves healthy helps them have peace of mind that we're not going to be coming back mid-year looking for extra money if something out of the ordinary happens.
Yeah, and then I'll just say my comments next thing for vote to vote. I'll support this at this point, but again, I appreciate that I'll come to the August meeting so that if anything changes in the next couple of months or we notice any international conflicts that might be changing fuel prices, we can have another discussion in August. But I think it is good to, if we're already identifying possible savings, to at least have that discussion at our August meeting. So I appreciate Sharon for circulating this. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion moved and seconded and amended. Seeing none, then calling the vote, all in favor? And any opposed? And with two opposed, that carries. All right, so that is dealt with, and then moving on to the 2024 annual report. So there are two recommendations. One is to approve the report as well as direct administration to provide it to council for review. Can I get a mover and seconder, get those on the floor and then just some discussion and comments? Moved by Commissioner Robbins, seconded by Commissioner Plaza. Thank you. Any comments or questions on the annual report? Yes, Commissioner Plaza.
Thank you. Just, can you remind me of the timing of things of, does the LTC appear before council and committee when you, as a delegation? Introduction, what's the annual report? I'm just trying to, okay, that's, because I'm just like, we see people at different times. I'm like, this will be fun. Okay.
And to staff, when would you appear when this shows up on the agenda?
Essentially, yes, subsequent to the commission approving approving finalizing, we would reach out and find a time slot on SPPC to appear.
Okay.
This is a little bit late this year just because of the change in governance and the fact that the year end from the auditors was also a month late, so we're a month behind where we would normally be this.
Well, I know it's an issue then of procedurally working with the city clerk to see which best SPPC that we land at. Just, I think it'd be wonderful if the annual report can get done before we start getting back into budget stuff. That we already frame that conversation and not feel rushed and having that adequate time with the LTC.
Definitely. Yeah, hopefully it's July. Everyone is supposed to be July. So, yeah. Any other comments or questions on the annual report? All right, let's move in second. I'll just say thank you to staff for completing it. It's good to see updates on where everything is, and I appreciate knowing, kind of similar actually to the city, how we do, in progress, completed, not started. So good overview of understanding where we're at. So seeing no comments or further questions, it's moved and seconded. I'll call a vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. And then moving to appointments for Accessible Public Transit Service Advisory Committee. There's recommendation that we move forward with selecting those folks. And as you can see, there are 3 up for a voting slot, which we have 2 spots for, and then 1 for a non-voting spot. So yes.
Could you read the names in case anybody is listening to this?
Sure, yes. So we have available positions are 2 voting members and 3 non-voting. The following applications were received. So for voting, Penny Moore, John Tyrone Whiston, and Jody Goldhawk. And then for non-voting, Lauren McLean. So those are applied. So just in consideration of how to move forward with, since we have 2 spots and 3 applicants, I'm not sure if anyone would like to nominate certain people and then we could vote on them. That's a good pathway forward. We don't really have a process for this, so I'm not sure if that's something folks would want to do. Yes, Commissioner Casa?
Yes, I'd like to nominate, I'm sorry, Penny Moore and the third person, Jody Goldhawk. And if I may explain my rationale for that.
Could there be a seconder or something?
Yeah.
We're gonna try it.
Yeah. Second. Could also do them one at a time, perhaps. Instead of slate. Easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so maybe, since I don't see a seconder for both of those, maybe we move them individually and then if we have a seconder, you can speak to them. That works?
Well, there's something I want to speak to that goes to the whole process, but sure.
Can we do process questions first? Cause I have.
Yeah, let's do process questions.
Excellent.
Yeah, okay, so Commissioner Plaza, sounds like you have one and then.
Well, I didn't know if Councilor Charles was still on the floor to do his process question before.
Well, it's just that Tyrone Winston has indicated on the face of his application that he serves on the executive of, an organization that would be within scope, to have a, non-voting representation on this body. So I just want to explain, that's why I nominated the other two. I would very much like him to be on the committee, but I think should his candidacy for one of the two voting positions, and I did check with staff on this. It would be premature to say that now because we haven't had the election yet. But I would then come back and suggest that he be invited to submit and I do have a question for either Caroline or Kelly. Have there been contested votes on this commission in the last 2 or 3 years?
The best.
On the commission?
I'm sorry, on the advisory committee. On the
You
advisory.
mean on appointing people?
No, on the advisor, have there been contested votes emerging from the advisory committee? Okay.
Also, yeah, not totally within scope of what we're doing right now, but I should ask for the Okay, so I understand your rationale, so, and just maybe to staff as a procedure question. After this election, will we be able to reach out to John and ask if they would like to serve under the non-voting criteria? There's nothing that includes that. I think just given that they haven't applied for the non-voting, we couldn't necessarily force them onto it without asking first, so that, that option is available. Any other procedure questions, Commissioner and Commissioner Rosa first, sorry.
Just wondering if, for those people who did indicate they'd be interested in an interview, like just procedurally realize we might not need it today, but who would they normally come before a commission, like as the entirety, a subcommittee? How would that normally, or would admin do it? Like,
Through the chair, we've never utilized that. Historically, we get just enough applicants to fill a committee. We don't usually have an abundance of applicants, so it's never been an issue where really it comes down to voting. I think this is probably the first time in quite some time where we've had more people applying for vacancies than what were available.
and I guess that's perhaps something we just even flush out in terms of reference or outreach going forward. And term limits. Do we normally have any? You know, we always do notwithstanding at council when we keep reappointing people, but sometimes it's interesting knowing how long they've served or haven't served maybe a first time.
Through the chair, we don't currently have term limits associated with this committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes, Madam Chair, on this advisory committee, what's the difference between voting and non-voting? I just want to have a better understanding. I know what it means, but.
Essentially, the non-voting positions on this committee are reserved for people who are representing an association. For example, the March of Dimes, the CNIB. So they're speaking more broadly on behalf of an entire group versus the individuals that are coming forward that are speaking, you know, more specifically to their personal disability and their experience. So it's just kind of but at the end of the day, those non-voting members are just not voting on motions.
All right, are those all the procedural process questions everyone has? And then we move forward perhaps nominating one by one and then appointing, see if the slate and not see the seconder. Does that work for folks?
I'm fine if Councilor Tressa still wants to do it. Now that we've had our process questions out of the way, I'd still like to move it. I'd second it.
Okay, would you like to move the city before?
Yes.
Okay, so motion to appoint Penny Moore and Jody Goldhawk as voting members, moved by Commissioner Trosso, seconded by Commissioner Caloza. Any discussion on that at this point? No, okay, so then I'll call the vote, and we can discuss at the next vote. So call the vote on those two candidates, all in favor? And any opposed, that carries. All right, so we've appointed both of the voting members and then the non-voting member being Warren Plain. Would anyone like to move forward with that candidate? Moved by Commissioner Caloza, seconded by
Seconded.
Commissioner Trosso. Wonderful. Any comments or questions on that appointment? We have one vacancy or one person who applied for that one. And we can revisit John's application. But any comments on that? Seeing none, calling the vote, all in favor of appointing Lauren? Any opposed? That carries. So those are filling up the committee. Would staff require a motion? Perhaps.
I was doing a motion to ask staff to reach out, and if we vote on today that if Mr. Winston's interested in the position that we vote today, that he can just move over as non-voting.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I will take that as a motion from Commissioner Plaza, seconded by Commissioner Trossau. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, then calling the vote, all in favor, any opposed, that carries. All right, wonderful. Everyone hopefully will get a spot. I like it when that happens. So that is item 10, so that concludes our intro direction, and we'll be moving in camera. So I will take a motion at this point to in camera to discuss consistent with the provision of section 239 of the municipal act. The commission will move in camera for the following: labor relations or employee negotiations. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, seconded by Commissioner Rahman. All in favor on that item? And any opposed? That carries. All right, so we'll be moving in camera at this moment. I'll ask anyone who does not need to be in the room to please leave, and we'll be just doing the technology as well. All right, so as you can see, the next meeting date, so July 21st, so that's at the call of the chair, because it's not normally scheduled. At this point, we do have one item, and potentially, I don't know if there's gonna be any more. So I am keeping it at this point, although I do know that staff on vacation, and that is fantastic and appreciate it, and please enjoy it. But I'm gonna keep it at this point until, if we find out that that item could potentially bump to August, but it sounds like there's a strong there. So all I'm saying is please keep that time in your calendar at this point. I am still keep next meeting. So other than that, motion to adjourn, moved by Commissioner Trossau, seconded by Commissioner Lehman, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.